Speaking of his candidacy and his campaign, important to mention that Donald Trump still seems to be the front runner on the Republican side of things to get the nomination. Let's go to Washington. Corey Saylor is my guest. He's a spokesperson for the Council on American Muslim Islamic Relations. They're an advocacy group based in Washington. Corey, great to have you on the program today. Thanks for coming on CTV.
Thanks for having me.
So I want to get your take on what Donald Trump said.
Well, it feels like he's writing his policies in a clown car, but fortunately the adults are starting to talk now. Former Vice President Cheney has condemned him, the Speaker of the House has condemned him, and the head of his party, the Republican National Committee, has condemned him.
It's fine to say clown car, and I certainly understand what you're talking about. A lot of people have sort of said that his candidacy is very much sort of made up as he goes, but I'm curious whether you think there's a danger to this, whether these comments are reckless, what they do to the American political landscape.
Well, we know that there's a danger to it because a Gallup pollster showed that anti-Muslim sentiment tends to go in cycles around election campaigns, not so much international news events. And we've been living the backlash to comments like what Mr. Trump has been making for the last few months. It has a very real impact on human beings living on the ground who are now being subjected to hate because this candidate finds it politically expedient to use fear to get money and votes.
I was going to ask you exactly that, this idea of sort of trying to torque up anger or ignorance or racism basically for his own political ends. Is that what he's doing in your mind?
I think it's pretty clear that that's what he's doing. Every time he feels like he might be dropping in media attention, he'll come out with something completely outrageous like this. That works very well in the realm of reality TV where you can just say you're fired and that's it. In the real world, it has consequences. And I'm glad to see that the rest of his party is calling him out because they recognize those consequences. He's alienating key allies. He's talking about keeping out of our country interpreters who helped our military forces, Muslims who fought alongside our military forces, world leaders. This is just a ridiculous thing for a leading presidential candidate to suggest.
We're going to show the front cover of the Philadelphia Daily News, which shows Donald Trump comparing him to Adolf Hitler, and the headline is "The New Führer," and he's got his arm raised. The entire Trump candidacy, though, Corey, is based on this idea of him being an outsider, him being anti-establishment. So if you have the Republican establishment coming out and condemning him, doesn't that not arguably almost help his cause? Because you can say, look, here we go again. These Washington politicians just don't get it.
Well, we'll have to see what it does to his cause, because at the end of the day, if you want to win a national presidential election, you need the party establishment behind you. You need the game on the ground, shall we say, to get voters to the polls. So, as I said, what he's doing right now may be great entertainment, but we'll have to sit and see what happens when people actually start going to the polls.
We're going to show a couple of messages sent out on Twitter as well. This one by J.K. Rowling, the author of the Harry Potter books, how horrible. Voldemort was nowhere near as bad. We also have Jeb Bush. Donald Trump is unhinged. His policy proposals are not serious. Finally, we've got Hillary Clinton. This is reprehensible, prejudiced, divisive. Donald Trump, you don't get it. This makes us less safe. One final question for you, Corey, here, and I'm curious whether you think this will be a turning point. You know, a lot of people thought once he said this about John McCain, you know, being a loser for getting caught by the North Vietnamese and being in a prison camp, or Mexicans being killers and rapists, people thought, okay, that's it now. It's over for Trump. I mean, is this the point where it's over for Trump?
I'm never one to make those kind of predictions. The one thing I know for certain is ISIS could not have asked for a better candidate. He is doing everything he possibly can to alienate support for the United States around the world through these kind of outrageous statements, through his targeting of Hispanics. It's time for him to take a deep breath and realize that his candidacy is hurting this country.
Corey Saylor is with the Council on American Islamic Relations in Washington. Great to get you on, Corey. Thanks for making time for us today on CTV.
Thanks for having me.